And yeah. Oh, so I mean, let's. Can I talk about GameStop? What can I say about GameStop? I mean, you. The funny thing is that I have a lot of the same feelings about everything. It's you kind of. I mean, I've talked a lot about GameStop and how I feel about the situation and all that. And I thought I wanted to hop on and kind of reiterate a lot of my viewpoints that I had previously. And yeah, I think remember if you remember my previous thoughts on the company and the opportunity, there was kind of like a two-part thesis to it. And that second part of the thesis is a reinvention of the business model or a transformation, whatever you want to call it. And I just to remind people who, if you haven't seen my materials, is that we're in that second part of it here, where it's less about. I see over the past couple of years, I see an overemphasis on like that legacy business, and it's just there's no over. It matters. It's not that it doesn't matter, of course, but they're in the transformation stage here, and what could they transform into? You know what I mean? There's a lot of question marks about that, understandably so. But essentially, it becomes at this stage of that second part of the analysis, this transformation part, it becomes a bet on the management. In particular, of course, Ryan fucking Cohen. You know what I'm saying? Ryan Cohen and his crew, and that's what folks are should be focused on. You know what I mean? And that's probably going to be an ongoing debate as to how people feel about him, whether he can successfully transform that business. And those are great discussions. And those are good discussions that need to be had. And so when I look at the situation, though, and I'm kind of going to be echoing some of the thoughts that I had previously, is that I feel like I see enough where I believe this guy might be able to do it, right? That's not a guarantee. This is the same thing as before. I mean, I'm not promising anything, but over the long term here, I think he seems like the type of guy. He seems like he has those characteristics, and the way he approaches this seems like he might be able to do this. But again, that's not a guarantee. This is kind of like, it's kind of based on feel. You've heard me say that, right? And so I have that feeling. I have this feeling, and I'm like, all right, let me reiterate some of these feelings that I have. But it remains to be seen, And you should keep your eye on stuff too. Reserve the right to change your mind about stuff, just like I do. Don't follow anyone blindly. Nothing on this stream is advice. Hopefully, you all know that, right? This is the same thing. But like when I have a feeling about that, it's like, all right, well, let me share it. I could be wrong about stuff, but I think, all right, let's talk about it. And I don't know. I think he has the characteristics that he could do this. In particular, I think we can all agree GameStop finds itself in a very unique situation, just like it did last time, right? Not just in the gaming space per se, but you have a company where you actually have so many people rooting for it, right? They're rooting for it to work out, myself included. How often does that happen? That folks like really want it to work out, and it's a highly unusual position, and it's so unusual. The way you manage that situation is. You gotta manage it the right way. And honestly, the way he seems to be doing it, I think he's from a distance here, right? I have no idea, but I put myself in his shoes, and I think he's kind of seems to be taking the right approach, given this very unique situation that he finds himself, that the company finds itself in. You have a lot of investors kind of following what's happening, kind of wanting it to work out. You know what I say? That's very unusual. It's a very unusual situation. And I don't know if there's not too much precedent for it. You see it with some other companies, especially when the CEOs or the managers are just so heavily investing themselves in the business, investing themselves in the turnaround. And there's some managers out there who are somewhat similar. So I see it in Cohen. So that I think that he has the type of he seems to be doing the right things. And I know the question marks will be, well, what has he done? What is he doing? What's the plan? Those are fair questions. But, do you really think he's been doing nothing, or that GameStop hasn't been strategizing, testing some things here and there, and how to move forward? I think that's pretty ridiculous. I think we've seen enough